This is 6.2, Planning Adjusting Entries on a Worksheet. This is found on page 157 of your book. Um, this whole portion of the chapter is all about adjusting entries, so we need to learn about what those are and how we start adjusting for things. So if you look on page 157, it says, changes recorded on a worksheet to update general ledger accounts at the end of the fiscal period are called adjustments. The assets of a business, such as supplies and prepaid insurance, are used to earn revenue. The portions of the assets consumed in order to earn revenue become expenses of the business. The portions consumed are no longer assets but are now expenses. Therefore, adjustments must be made to both the asset and expense accounts for supplies and insurance. That just reading that one time is probably confusing to you, so I would read this whole section again before you even go further in this tutorial. Okay. Another thing that you need to look at is that green remember down at the bottom. It says the ending balance of the asset account supplies should represent the amount of supplies remaining on hand at the end of the fiscal period. The amount of supplies used during the period should be recorded in the expense account, supplies expense. So what happens when we start adjusting, you will have, if you look on page 158, you will have it says on August 31st, before adjustments, the balance of supplies is 1,025 and the balance of supplies expense is 0, as shown in the T accounts. And you can see that right below. It says on August 31st, Mrs. Park counted the supplies on hand and found that the value of supplies still unused was $310. So she had $1,025 worth of supplies at the beginning of the month. She counted what she has left, and she has $310 left of supplies. So when she subtracts that out, there is $715 that she has consumed. The amount that she has consumed then will be credited to supplies. You can see that here. And will be debited to supplies expense. Remember, we always debit an expense, so you should remember that pretty easily. Okay, so we have to go put back in what we've used. Okay, this is what we had. This is what we've used up, and then what we've used up will become a supplies expense. Some students get pretty confused on this. Just think about, you have a big pile of supplies in your company, and every time you use a pen or every time you use, a stapler or something, that paper, you're taking supplies away. You are taking some of that dollar amount that you used to have in your business. Okay. At the end of the month, when you count what you have left, which was that $310, your pile is quite a bit smaller, and the difference in that pile is the 715. Okay. The other adjustment that we do is for insurance. If you look on page 159, it says on August 31st, before adjustments, the balance of prepaid insurance is $1,200 and the balance of insurance expense is 0. On August 31st, Ms. Park checked the insurance records and found that the value of insurance coverage remaining is $1,100. So we pay insurance maybe once a year or whatever, and we use a little bit of it at a time. So we need to adjust for the fact that we have some left. Okay. So if you look there in that green box, it says prepaid insurance balance is $1,200. Insurance coverage remaining, what we have unused, is $1,100. And so the adjustment amount, what we've used, is $100. Okay, so think about, again, just like supplies, you have this pile of insurance. You've used a little bit of it, and so they'll tell you what's remaining, that $1,100, and whatever you've used, the difference, will be debited to insurance expense and credited to prepaid insurance. Okay, proving the adjustments. You need to rule a single line, then you need to add up the adjustment column for the debit side and the credit side, and those two things should match. Underneath, you can rule a double line. Okay, for preparing a worksheet, this is where we're going to get into the transparency sheets in your book. The first thing that you need to do is write a heading. You'll record the trial balance you can go through and look at all these things. We did the supplies adjustment, prepaid insurance adjustment, we proved the adjustment column. That's everything that we've done so far in this chapter. Okay? Then you need to extend all the balance sheet accounts, all the income statement accounts, calculate and record net income or net loss, and then total and rule. So here is a blank worksheet. We are going to put our heading, and now what did we do? We put all of our accounts in. We did our trial balance. This came from our ledger. We recorded our adjustments. So we put our credit into supplies and prepaid insurance and our debit into those expenses. We totaled our adjustment amount. Okay. Then everything down to income summary will be balance sheet accounts. So we're just going to take this number and bring it over. Okay, this was on the debit side, so it stays on the debit side. Petty cash stays on the debit. Look here though, in supplies you had a debit of $1,025, a credit of $715, so you would subtract that from here, and your difference would be on your debit side. Same thing here. These are on the credit side, so they need to go credited. Debit, debit. Income summary we're going to leave blank, but now we know that everything below income summary is going to go on our income statement. Same thing, you'll just bring those numbers over depending on where they were in the debit or credit side. Okay. Once you are done there, you need to add up your columns. Okay, so I've gone through and I've added all of these up, and now we will have a difference between your debit and credit side. Okay, so the difference between these two is $2,099. The difference between these two is $2,099, and we know that we have made money because we have debited our income statement and credited our balance sheet. If, however, we needed to credit our income statement and debit our balance sheet and our two numbers were here, we would know that we lost money and we had a net loss. Okay? Then we will prove further, and our debit and credits should match both places.